was glad to be here. Last year this time, at Transparency19, we launched the first version of Sonar. Reid Hoffman has a saying that if you're not embarrassed of your first product, then you actually waited too late to launch. And I think that defines our first version of Sonar, the world's first freight market dashboard. Everything about Sonar is about speed. It's about information, analytics, and I think it's quite beautiful. And we have aspired for all of that. We've aspired to put the best tools, the fastest data, and a whole analytics layer to give folks in the freight market perspective of what's happening right now. Most freight transactions and decisions are made within 48 hours. The data prior to Sonar, universal dashboard and market data, sometimes took weeks and months to get access to. And what we've done over the past year is bring that context into Sonar. Since then, we have done 35 releases. We release almost every single week. Whether it's new tools, new data sets, it's all about constantly improving the product. Much of that has been informed by feedback from users that have implemented it in their operations and have used it to inform their decisions. Now, one of the things that George mentioned that impacts freight is Mother Nature. Whether it's hurricanes, tropical storms, blizzards, earthquakes, fires, all of that has a profound impact on the capacity map. We have introduced our Critical Event Center, which takes in data from the entire globe, looks for major Mother Nature events, and provides analytics layers for folks to understand all of the information about that. We also have mapped out all of the rail lines, ports, and canals, as well as refineries that show critical infrastructure that is going to have an impact on the freight market. Particularly with supply chains being global, it's even more important to understand things that may not happen here in the United States, but also happen globally. Having that context and understanding it, we think provides a lot of information for folks to better inform how they manage their supply chains. Now, one of the things about data is data without context is oftentimes meaningless. And one of the things that we have really aspired for is real-time context of what's happening in the freight market. And there's no faster way to get access to information and context than through Twitter. And so what we have done, the problem with Twitter is there's a lot of noise out there. Kim Kardashian's tweeting. That doesn't impact freight as far as I'm concerned. My neighbor's mill doesn't impact freight as far as I'm concerned. But what does impact freight are about 30,000 accounts that really move the global economy and have perspectives. These are dignitaries, they're politicians, they're news outlets, they're the folks that are highly, highly connected to the global economy. And we have gone out and identified those accounts, and then we've added about 700 relevant freight and supply chain subjects and accounts to bring in context. So every time those folks tweet, we actually see it and provides real-time information analytics. There's also an artificial intelligence layer that's looking for signals. If a subject is being tweeted about or searched on web or looked up on YouTube, all of a sudden, we actually see it. Some of the recent articles where we had gotten ahead of the story, we were one of the first to break news, actually was informed by these types of signals. Our editorial team has been using them to inform context and get ahead of things that may take place. And so this is available inside of Sonar 4.0. But of course, weather is not just about black swan events. It's not just about hurricanes. Particularly if you're in trucking or in roads and you're dependent upon them, it's about surface conditions. One of the problems in challenges in weather is a lot of it's based on the air condition and not what's on the surface, not what's on the roads. So we've gone out and developed an AI layer that identifies what the actual road temperature is anywhere in the map, compares it to air temperature so you have context. Of course, road temperature is heavily impacted by precipitation and sunlight. and this goes out and monitors it, and it's anywhere. Anywhere in the map, you can actually get access to road conditions. One of the things that's happened as we've gone out and talked to customers about Sonar is the ability for the users to upload their own information, particularly around geography, map locations. They want to know where their distribution centers are. They want to know where their terminals are. They want to know where their most common shippers are. They want to know where the truck stops are. So we have, in this release, added the ability for users to upload geographical layers of any address. All it takes is an address, a physical address, and the machine in the background is uploaded directly into Sonar. Every single user has the ability to upload their own information, and those data sets, those locations, can be shared to anyone in their organization. We are also working, and we'll have it soon released, the ability for companies, perhaps it's a shipper, perhaps it's a carrier, that wants to provide geolocation to everyone to create mapping libraries. So in this case, we did it for Pilot, where Pilot could have loaded all of their geolocations. FEMA, if there was a disaster site and we had to pick or identify where those FEMA sites were, could also be identified. So we're going to come out with that and create mapping layers that people can share. Now, freight is volatile. We all know that. That's frankly why a lot of interest is around technology, whether it's pricing volatility, capacity, availability, volatility. There's a ton of stuff that happens. And it happens in such a short time frame. If you're a freight broker, you make your money because volatility exists. You make your money because capacity is inconsistent in the market. You provide a service of identifying capacity. You also make money and manage your spreads by managing your margins. Now, carriers also have the same opportunity. Identifying what markets right now are hot or turning up is important, and as important as any information in the market. Where should they send those trucks so they're there before the loads are there? And so we've created volatility indexes that go out and take in all of the data that we've taken into Sonar and provide analytics so that people have them based on what we see in the market. We wrote a lot about the ELD mandate because it was obviously a very polarizing concept. The idea that all of a sudden we had the ability to track drivers was concerning to them. But one of the things that I think is profound about that is, for the first time ever, we have a version of truth. We now are able to tell where trucks are being detained. We're able to tell where congestion's at. And so over the past year, the FreightWaves data science team has mapped out 250,000 locations around the country. This laborious experience has taken a lot of resources. And then what we've done is we've taken ELD data, both from carriers as well as providers of ELDs, and created anonymized maps of that data, mapping out detention, trying to figure out where congestion is, trying to figure out where drivers are detained. Because frankly, this detention impacts everybody. It impacts the shippers, it impacts the warehouse operators, it impacts the drivers, most importantly. And so we're trying to get a handle on where a driver's really sitting, and are there answers and truth to that. So we've gone out and not only added geographical layers into detention, we've also profiled them based on the type of location they are. This is the type of shipper, and we monitor that every day, and this is one of the new feeds. And of course, freight is not just about trucking. We talk a lot about trucking here. It sort of started our business. We started out as a trucking analytics provider, but freight is multimodal. It's rail, it's ocean, it's air, it's warehousing. So one of the things that we've built is more analytics across all modes of traffic. What you're looking at right now is our rail map, as well as rail layers. We now have rail pricing data. You can compare rail pricing against trucking pricing. We've added tender rejection data. If you know what a tender rejection is, it's basically an offer from a shipper to a carrier. That information, we go out and track it to figure out how far in advance that load comes, whether they pick up. And right here, this information is available for users so they can understand what's happening. We have it for air, ocean, really adding all modes. I think one of the things that I'm most proud about, one of the things that perhaps I didn't anticipate, is our editorial and our analytics team. The analysts, the market experts, about 15 full-time folks on our analytics team, 25 full-time journalists that work on the FreightWaves staff all across the globe, providing 24/7, 365 coverage. And one of the things we tried to do inside of Sonar, as well as just overall, is provide context to data. So in this particular layer, what we've done is taken all of the Sonar indices, all of the indexes that make it up, and then taken anything that is ever posted on FreightWaves.com, any article about a subject, and have married them together. In this particular layer, you have the ability to pull up any chart, and if it in the background finds that that subject, that chart, that index has ever been talked about by our editorial staff, it actually shows it right here. So if you're trying to find out why did this particular thing happen, why did oil move, why did tender rejections move, why did pricing move, you have it right here, and it just pops up and you can actually see the context for that particular subject. And I think that's a really, really powerful tool because, again, data without context is meaningless. Back to going into uploading data and making it personalized, we created a bunch of indices and indexes that had never been seen before. Tender rejection, tender lead time. All this data is being housed in all of these silos. Companies like yourself have it, providers have it. One of the things that people asked us is that they want to benchmark their data against macro market data. They wanted to take data from their company and compare it against how they're performing or underperforming versus the broader market. And so we're releasing that. Our proprietary indices, the OTRI and the ITRI, the tender lead time, the Hall index, the user has the ability to upload that into the system and it will tell them how they do. Now let me be very clear about this. There is no customer identifiable information. In fact, we don't ask for it. It won't accept it if you put customer identifiable information. But you do have information related to your operation and you can benchmark yourself against the broader market. And I think that's a pretty powerful addition to the plan. I'm a big believer this is a community, and I don't mean that. I sincerely believe that this is an industry, particularly the folks that are interested in digitization. There's been discussion, I've heard some executives of large companies in this space attack transparency as if it's a bad thing. And I just think that's ridiculous because sometimes these are the biggest companies in the space. We don't want transparency because we're afraid we're going to lose an edge. And I say, if that's the case, then what are you really doing that you're afraid is going to happen? Because if you're running a really good operation and a clean operation, a transparent market actually should help you improve and be better than everybody else. But things happen so quickly. And as a community, there's a lot of information that's out there. So we are adding anonymized, moderated chat into Sonar. It's important to know that this is anonymous. The only folks that are identified on the platform are FreightWaves staff, our market experts, or editorial staff. Everybody else is anonymized with a number. We did that very intentional because we wanted to encourage people to talk about topics going on without any sensitive information impacting their company, but created an open platform. Now, this is common on Wall Street. Bloomberg chat is anonymized. It's anonymous. And it took us some understanding of why they did that before we decided to go this way. And we chose that we felt that was the best path because it will encourage people to really create community context and content. All of our users, all of our staff has access to it, and we hope Sonar users will take advantage of it. We're going to create chat rooms. It's also moderated to make sure there isn't any suggestions of anything that could potentially create liability and make sure it's not an abusive. Some chat rooms that are non-moderated can get out of hand. We don't want that. Facebook is good for that. If you don't believe me, go to our comments section under our articles. We have gone beyond just putting out commentary on a website and articles. This past November, we launched FreightWaves Now, which is a set of market videos, 10 to 20 minutes each, that we dive into subjects. It's on YouTube, it's on LinkedIn, we got a lot of feedback about that. It started accidentally. We never intended to do it. I just happened to have a GoPro one day, and we launched weather, and Nadine and I were standing there, and I thought, well, this is really cool, we should do it. And then I got feedback and said, can you do that again? And then it became a thing. And then I got emails and saying, can you do more? Can you create an over-the-top streaming network based on freight and supply chain?
I'm excited to announce that starting in August, FreightWaves TV will become the first ever streaming TV network dedicated to freight. I'm Emily Zink. I'll be your host. You could stream anytime, anywhere, in the office, at your house, or in your cab. Hammer down, everyone.
So, FreightWaves TV is an over-the-top TV network done by professional journalists, professional correspondents. We, like drivers, a lot of drivers call us the ESPN of freight. We've called ourselves the Bloomberg or CNBC. And so that's the same idea, is that content related to the market, long-form content, will be available streamed on demand as well as live, direct from our studios in Chattanooga. I'm really, really excited about that. So that will come in August. We've got our team, we've got our studio, we're really pumped about it. It's gonna be done really high quality, high-level production quality, so really pumped about it. One of the other things that we get asked to do a lot is to go beyond a 600 or 800 word article. Those are really good for real-time context. But a lot of people call us or reach out to us, whether they're venture capitalists, hedge funds, trucking participants, freight participants, and say, you guys just have a lot of knowledge of the market. I'm trying to understand more about the subject. So one of the things that we've done is we've created a research arm inspired by McKinsey, BCG, Gartner, whatever you want to call it. The kind of research that you would see on Wall Street that hedge funds pay millions of dollars for. And we brought that in-house, covering freight and freight transportation, doing deep dive research. And so I'm excited that Sonar users will also have access to that. All of our research is available here. Subjects that is of interest to folks will be here. So Sonar users will all have access to our research. And with that, I actually want to bring our analytics team on stage with me to talk about a recent subject that I think is of interest around research. What's that? Oh, sorry. So Kevin Hill. There you are. You got lost. You didn't deploy Gary Vee, though. I was happy about that. So, you've been doing some research lately on a big subject. You want to share what this is about?
Yeah, sure. It's a big subject. It's right back here, right? Amazon. And the news that FreightWaves broke about 10 days ago about a new, I think it's a freight matching platform, right? That they're beta
They launched
testing.
freight.amazon.com, right?
Yeah, freight.amazon.com.
And I think they took exception to how it was portrayed, right?
They did, yes.
And I think we stood behind our analysis, but I think a lot can be interpreted how you think of that.
True.
So one of the things we decided to dive into for our first research stick is to find out the perception of Amazon. Not from an Amazon's perspective, but from the market's perspective.
Yes.
So you're going to share that research with us, right?
We are, yes, definitely.
So you can talk a little bit about it. Can we get on the front screen, can we get in front of us, can we get the actual stuff pulled up? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to see than having to look
So if
behind.
we go back.
So this is a
we
little
go.
bit about, you did research and you compared it to when Amazon makes an announcement in the market, how the stocks sell off. And when Amazon enters and definitively has entered a market, you're actually covering what actually happens short term.
Yeah, so we did a little bit of that analysis, right? To where what happens when news or reports, right? There's really no announcements ever, right? It's just reports.
It just sort of gets leaked out by the media.
It just gets leaked out, right?
Dirty
You know?
media.
Yeah,
Can't believe
I
it.
know. Places like FreightWaves, right? So it gets leaked out, and you see a panic, or maybe not a panic, but just a sell-off of all these
Because people
stocks,
are
right?
really reacting to the idea that Amazon's
They really are, right? If we go look at this, you know, just in these baskets of stocks, you saw $2.3 billion
So $2.3 billion sold off.
sold off
because of
on Monday,
the story
or a week from Monday,
that was broken, right?
That was broken.
And I have to admit, I was utterly shocked, and I was like, oh shit.
I know, right?
Didn't intend to do that. But it happened, and I think we were completely caught off guard by the way that, I mean, we write about a lot of stuff. I think it's, and frankly, more, I didn't think this was news. I mean, yes, it was news, but
Yeah.
I didn't think the fact that we're getting into freight was news, and I think that's how we were so utterly shocked at how fast the market
I know, right? It's a beta testing in the Northeast
Yeah.
with basically a landing page where you put in zip-to-zip codes, and the shipper gets a quote.
So we
right?
sold off $2.3 billion of the publicly traded transportation company,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So you know what happens after that?
So what happens after that is that, you know, the logistics industry they have very strong opinions, right?
Right.
So we decided to survey the, you know, carriers, brokers, and shippers and observers
So you did a survey of the market.
of the market last
And
week.
how many folks participated in that survey?
811.
So you sent out how many people did you send it out to?
I think around 40,000.
40,000,
right?
811.
We
For a response rate of
in about, a pretty good response rate, and within 24 hours, right?
Got it.
So just one email.
And this is the feedback you got, right?
This is the feedback we got, right? And this is how the
So what
kind of segments out.
what does that say?
Well, is it positive or negative to your
So you had
industry,
carriers,
right?
shippers, and brokers.
Brokers, right? And, you know, shippers are slightly positive, but
Right.
not really enthusiastic,
I
right?
saw this and I was actually surprised that the shippers were actually the most positive of everybody.
Yes.
And I was surprised by that.
I was too, right? But they're not really too enthused, right?
Right. I mean,
You know, it's like,
but they're the
it's
most
okay.
positive, right?
They were the most positive.
So the brokers were sort of neutral on it.
They were, you know, they weren't quite as, you know, they're neutral. The carriers had the worst or the most
So
negative,
the carriers were the most
right?
negative. That's that blue line, right?
Yeah, that's the blue line.
The orange line are the shippers.
Yes.
The gray or silver-ish are the brokers,
Yeah,
right?
the brokers, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, it breaks down pretty evenly between slightly negative and highly negative.
Got it. And the carriers
Or
were the
very
most negative.
They were.
I mean, they were just like, this is
Yeah.
not good. But do you think it's just, I mean, carriers inevitably always,
They're pessimistic.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're not
usually
excited.
pessimistic, Yeah, but
Got
it
it.
shouldn't really affect them too much.
okay.
Right? I mean, there might be a little bit, and we'll get to a slide here in a second where about
So the
rates.
question was, how do you think shippers will adopt and use Amazon's new
Yeah.
freight matching tool?
So everyone's pretty well in agreement gradually, right? So if Amazon rolls this out, it would be a gradual type of adoption, not, you know, high growth.
Is that consistent across all groups? Thought it was
Yeah,
gradual?
it's consistent across all groups, just right at, you know, above 50%
Okay.
for each one.
Got it.
The second most popular answer on that is that they'll just ignore the Amazon app.
They're just
Or
not gonna, and
not
that's
even gonna
for
do
carriers or everybody?
For everybody, actually, right?
Okay.
Yes, yes. So
Got it.
for everybody. So
So it's a non-event for them.
it's a non-event, right? So
Okay.
either it's going to be gradual or just going to be ignored.
Got it.
Right. Then if we flip over to, so this is where the rates and the purchasing power of Amazon comes in, right? So they're what, $1 trillion company?
Yeah,
Or
they
somewhere in
spend-
that range, right?
Lots of money.
Lots of money, and basically, you know, do they have purchasing power, right? So whether it's transportation,
So they have this
No.
purchasing power, and the view is that they will drive down rates because
that's
they're,
the view, yeah.
okay, got it.
Yeah, that's the view. Whether that's the reality or not, who knows?
So the view
right?
is you have this dominant player in the market that's taking out so much share that potentially could drive down rates.
Yeah.
And then how did the market react to that?
So basically, everyone's pretty well in agreement that slightly, that
Okay.
they slightly have that
Overall,
power.
and this is
Overall.
not just about Amazon's business, but overall.
Overall,
Is
with
that
other
is that just because they're
shippers,
taking more share and more share is concentrated?
I think so, yeah.
Got it, okay.
Just more share, and really just probably leveraging their network to
Got
get
it.
up to the one-day shipping, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And this is a question that we just asked brokers, and this is a really interesting one. Who's at most risk, right?
Okay.
The type of broker, right? Is it the micro? Is it the mid-size? Is it the ones who aren't adopting technology, right?
Right.
And of course, the carrier or the brokers that aren't adopting technology are the most at risk. And that's for any
so
high
this
tech.
is basically what you're saying is, if they just ignore it and
Yeah.
just hopes it goes away, they don't do anything about it, they'll be displaced.
That's
Sort of
that's
like
exactly it.
Sears,
It's
right?
Sears, yeah.
Like
so
just
that's a
close my
perfect-
eyes and I had the catalog and
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting because I think Sears was the Amazon of 30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years, 100 years ago,
Yeah,
right? The
it's
Sears
just- it's
catalog
astounding.
was revolutionary,
Yeah.
like the internet,
Yeah.
right? The catalog that
And they
to
just
everybody.
they didn't respond. So this is telling us that The perception is if you don't respond with technology, that you're just done.
You're done. You're
Okay,
done.
got it.
So, and I think that's what you see in the market too, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's true for everybody. What else do you have? Anything else?
Oh, we have some.
I don't know that we want that quote.
Yeah, no, right.
I'll stay away from that.
We have some stock analysis that we did.
So one of the things I
just
did hear about
yeah.
that is I thought was interesting was there's this initial sell-off in every
Yes.
market they enter, and then all the over time those stocks just recover, and it becomes, oh, they're here, and it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, it doesn't because they're not going to dominate that industry, right?
Yeah.
They might dominate a few,
It took them
like
20
AWS.
years. It took them
right?
20 years to take out Sears.
I know, right? So.
Yeah.
So Amazon can get in the business of Etsy, or I think we have Wayfair here.
Okay.
Right, but you see these dramatic drops whenever the reports come out, right?
Of any time they enter a new market,
Any-
and then
any-
it just
any rumors.
over time, any rumors, and over time it
Rumors,
builds
yeah.
up. Yeah. I had a CFO tell me of a company that actually said his perception was that the market was already wanting to sell off transportation stocks. They felt, particularly in the freight brokerage industry, truckload stocks are different,
Yeah.
that it was already just a selling chance, and they just needed a liquidity opportunity. They just needed something to trigger it, so they could sell off. And that, I don't know if that's
It could
true,
be,
but
it could be. And earnings season was right in there too.
yeah,
so, you
so it
don't
just
know where
gave
that-
sort of some relief, and if you had profits and sharing.
Yeah, yeah,
so.
yeah.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate this. Thank you for doing the research. It's available to us and available to Sonar users.
Yeah.
And how many pages is it?
It's about 25 pages.
25 pages
Yeah.
deep dive. And you're going to do these weekly, right?
Yeah, I think we are going to do it weekly. We're
Okay,
gonna
so
publish these
not just
weekly.
Amazon. We're not going to stay on
No,
that,
not
right?
just
You
Amazon.
got other. What are
So
some of the other topics?
Anything in the freight and logistics space.
So anything
freight
deep
tech,
dive,
You know, we're doing ELD market share reports, right? And also trucking or parking.
Got it. Very
deep
cool.
dive into parking. Why no one can solve this problem of truck parking. Everyone talks about it, but
I can't wait for
what's the
that.
solution?
That's going to be
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for
Very good.
coming up
Thank
here.
you.